Hi, I'm Arthur Turhala. I'm making this video in response to the April 27th council meeting where I asked another question and Mayor Mitchell responded with more bullshit and literally goes beyond belief. So, but on top of that, Gerry Herron, they did report from the Trent Severn debut, and Gerry Herron now is advising the watershore people who own the waterfronts to break the law. Uh, you can't make this shit up. Like this council literally now telling the residents of Pigeon Lake to scoop out the weeds, but then they make comments about the province. Gerry's words, lip service, or 10 years of bullshit, not dealing with it. This council is beyond belief. They're calling out our province and Trent water systems, and in the meantime, I'm going on 9+ years waiting for a building permit. Look into your own bullshit, council. Clean up your own house before you start fucking poke other people's bullshit. Your corruption is not advisable. Again, step down if you can't do your job.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is my second year, Chair.
Second year there. So basically, because it's the same lip service we've been getting, and I mean no offense to you, but it's the same lip service we've been getting for the last 10 years here, and they keep just changing the date and get the same spiel. And again, I mean no disservice to you, but it's just getting a little redundant, as you mentioned. Ridiculousness. So I've got a couple questions for you. And basically with the nation to nation thing, what would you say to the fact that Mr. Weetung is actually harvesting the rice right now? The landowners can't do anything. They can't even try and scoop out the weeds that are growing underneath the rice. Does that not make it apparent that he's already winning and now the landowners have to prove that they've got a right?
So, I mean, as I mentioned, like for the harvest, he does have a constitutional right to harvest wild rice. So, I mean, that is true. And the way our regulations are constructed, there's a requirement for a permit to remove any vegetation from the Trent Severn Waterway other than harvesting. So, I mean, it's not. I understand the point that you're making, that it's there. That it's seemingly not a sort of an even playing field, but they're operating under different parameters.
Okay, so what would you say then for the gentleman, I believe it was Mr. Wood, who got the permit that day from the proper parties, was in the middle of harvesting weeds, and then got shut down by everybody shows up in his living room from the OPP to you guys to everybody. What do you say to that? If a permit was issued and then he's not allowed to do it, so obviously there is a failsafe in there that people can get permits.
So I mean, I wasn't around in 2015, so I don't know exactly what the circumstances were. But my understanding is that, I mean, that the permits were issued by the Trent Severn Waterway, and that there was, there were issues raised by the First Nations about lack of consultation on those permits, that pointing out that the removal of wild rice is an impact on their harvesting rights, and so I think Parks Canada approached Mr. Wood, and he, as I think someone mentioned previously, I believe Larry did voluntarily turn in his his permit. And so since that time, I mean, that's sort of the, I guess, the genesis of our dialogue with the First Nations around what provisions we put around that vegetation removal that they feel doesn't have a negative impact on their harvesting rights. So, and that's the discussion that we're continuing today.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, I understand Larry turned his permits in, but you know, we got a couple cops sitting there and a couple bigwigs from the brass there from the Trent Severn and everything. Could be a little intimidating. So with the vindictive nature, and I watched the Indians and Lake Drew Hayden's movie there. Very vindictive, this Mr. Weetunk, and by tossing it underneath the docks and just doing it for the sake of doing it. You know, I don't think that's right. And if the government can't do something about this to resolve this for our people that all of us on council here, we represent, I think we almost need to encourage them to do what they need to do to enjoy their property that they pay good money for, that they pay taxes for, because I think we're doing a disservice. So if that's the way they want to play it, like if Mr. Weetung wants to play it that way, I encourage every one of you people out there watching to do the same goddamn thing. That's it for me.
David, I'm not gonna, you don't need to answer that. And I understand the frustration, Councillor Herron. I just want to say something, and then I'll turn over the rest. I appreciate the frustration, but as a council, or I'll speak for myself, as frustrating as the situation is, it's really important that everybody abide by the law as it exists today. This is a very, very difficult situation. We have to find a solution. It's really challenging. The frustration is palpable. Sorry, and Gerry expresses it well. But please, everybody, the solution lies in respect and abiding by the law. So I just want to make comment. So Anita, you're next. Questions, Madam Clerk, if you want to go ahead, I'll either answer them or direct them to a staff member.
Okay, very good. First question is from Arthur Torella. Can the mayor and council please have the chief building official explain in writing what legal requirement or construction detail is required to meet the Provincial Building Code Act and Ontario Building Code legislation in my May 24th, 2012 building permit application that is well over 3,200 days past the OBC legal timeframe?
My answer, I've been advised by the CBO that numerous written responses have been provided to you detailing what is required in order for you to obtain your building permit. The most recent written response was provided on February 2nd, 2021.
Thank you. Question.
Well, Gerry's made his comments and remarks about Mr. Wu-Tang and the race issues and the video that Drew Hayden had produced and put out. You should rewatch it. Again, one person actions does not represent a complete society, but a council's actions over a building permit, who know that I have met every requirement, shows your actions are inappropriate. Your conduct is inappropriate. Your bullshit needs to be addressed and clean up your own act before you start laying blame elsewhere. Our government has a system in place, but when our own public officials don't follow the rules, it causes more grief. Your comment to go out and take care of yours, just break the law, thank you. I'll follow that. I'm going to build my house. Take me back to court, dipshit. because you bullshit is coming to an end. You need to be resigned immediately because your actions are inappropriate. From day one, you've allowed so many of our residents to be overpaying for minor variance for height requirements in rural zoning, and we're talking a minute, 2 or 3 feet. How are you justifying this now? Our own report came in that from Performance Concepts shows your bullshit is wrong. Rob Lamar has been making people pay for minor variances. Mine on my garage was one for the height requirement. I'm in a farm community here, rural designated farm. I can't put in a 16-foot garage because it's blocking whom? I have no neighbors that can block. Your bullshit coming to an end. Rob Lamar is going to drift off like the lawyers and bullshit in retirement. But in the meantime, how many people have you hurt? How many people who are now retired wanting to better their homes have suffered because of your bullshit? Mayor Mitchell, you were involved in 2012. You got my letter of requesting an investigation back in 2012. You're now playing games. You want me to go back to court again, thinking that I'm not leaving. You need to be stepped down as mayor because you can't do your job. If you can't speak out about the wrongdoing of Rob Lamar over a building permit and other issues I've brought to council, then you shouldn't be entitled to do that job. Anyway, please think about it. And am I going back to court? Have Rob Lamar tell me what's wrong with my drawings. Not make up more bullshit. I've responded so many times and he keeps me adding shit. Get a professional. The building code states you can send it out to someone else. But again, what's the purpose of having building inspectors if, things change during the job? Anyway, goes beyond belief.